Please feel free to adjust the playback speed to 1.25 or 1.5 depending on your preference.
Kang Tae-sik felt like someone had hit him in the back of his head. A bastard that displayed the movement equal to his own speed, which was unmatched within the rank B, introduced himself as a measly rank E just now. Is he trying to make fun of me? Kang Tae-sik gnashed his teeth. No, hang on. Indeed, there was something odd here. If he's really a high-rank hunter, there is no reason for him to be here, isn't it? The jobs these bottom-feeder association hunters did were quite obvious. Their main role was to clear those gates that guilds and freelancers gave up on because of their low monetary values. Their earnings were pathetically small compared to other hunters, and they were not widely acknowledged by other hunters either. In other words, there was a very good chance that this bastard really was an E rank. Only that, his abilities were anything but. Still, a fake registrant wouldn't brazenly work under the association like this, so Kang Tae-sik eventually arrived at the only logical conclusion. He is a reawakened. When he thought about it, he remembered the upper echelons of the association getting a bit noisier with a rumor of someone going through a reawakening somewhere nearby this location. And that person was supposedly a hunter affiliated with the association. He should have memorized that name back then. As that matter happened only a couple of weeks ago, if this bastard had been delaying getting a reassignment test for some reason until now, it was very much possible for him to remain as an E rank and assist the association with their work. Who could have guessed that such a guy would show up today? Kang Tae-sik had made sure to perform thorough background checks on the hunters participating in today's raid, but he had missed the existence of this one. I really have terrible luck, don't I? That's the only conclusion he could arrive at. I should have asked for more money, if things turned out this way. Kang Tae-sik recalled the events of a few days ago while licking his dried lips. A few days ago. A cafe near the headquarters of the association. Kang Tae-sik asked the moment he settled down in his seat. What business do you have with me? The middle-aged man sitting his opposite side seemed rather haggard for some reason. He said that he's an owner of some company, didn't he? Kang Tae-sik definitely did not know who this man was. However, he still decided to free up some time after this man continued to call him on the phone, sounding quite desperate and all. The middle-aged man muttered as if he was speaking to himself. I've heard that no one knows what happens exactly inside dungeons. The man's voice was so soft that Kang Tae-sik had to ask again. What did you say? This is every cent I have in my name. The man suddenly presented his bank account book. Kang Tae-sik alternated his gaze between the book and the man's face, before confirming the bank balance printed on the book's pages. There was a substantial amount of 2 billion printed there. And why are you showing me this? When Kang Tae-sik formed a questioning expression, the middle-aged man's head dropped lower. Among the criminals you're in charge of, there is one who had hurt my little girl. Because of that, she took her own life, and my wife is still in the hospital from the shock. The middle-aged man's voice became tearful. Yet, such a bastard will be able to roam the streets again in a few years' time. You think he'll be able to rest easy knowing that? The man raised his sorrow and rage-filled face. I'm sure you can already tell what I'm implying here. The man lowered his head again. I beg of you, Hunter Nim. A deafening silence descended between these two men. Kang Tae-sik leaned against the back of his chair and fell into a deep contemplation. Only after a long while passed by did he open his mouth again. Can you guess why I chose to work for the association's monitoring division? Pardon me? The middle-aged man raised his head. Kang Tae-sik explained himself. As a B-rank hunter, I'm considered as one of the higher-ranked hunters. Large guilds continue to send their scouting offers in my direction all the time. Yet, can you guess why I persist in doing this job while getting a pittance in return? I don't know. The corners of Kang Tae-sik's lips arched up. You see, I find it more enjoyable to fight against people rather than monsters. In that sense, the monitoring division was like the heaven-sent job for Kang Tae-sik. Well, he could beat up other hunters in the name of the law, after all. And he'd end up killing one or two due to unavoidable circumstances, too. Due to unavoidable circumstances. Kang Tae-sik inwardly smiled and spoke. Stepping on that insect you told me about isn't going to be difficult at all. However, there will be other hunters inside the dungeon besides the insect, as well. I might view that bastard as an insect, but will other hunters think that way, I wonder? The middle-aged man formed a disappointed expression after hearing Kang Tae-sik's rather pessimistic-sounding words. And here he was, thinking that he'd finally get to avenge the death of his little girl. It felt like the heavens were crashing down on top of him. However, Kang Tae-sik formed a sinister smile as if to mock the other man. This money, plus 1 billion won on top of that, to deal with the other hunters as well. Can you do it? However, if a reawakened hunter was among those other hunters, then the amount of 3 billion won was not quite enough. Well, his own life was on the line, after all. The self-proclaimed Ranky hunter was still emitting a sharp, observant air even now. He looked as if he'd seize any slight opening there was. Kang Tae-sik swallowed his saliva. I can't take him lightly. Kang Tae-sik was confident of winning here. He had never lost a single one-on-one fight even before he underwent the awakening process. However, even though he could win, it would not be an easy victory at all. Right now, he had to revise his plans ever so slightly. With a nice timing, the Ranky hunters asked a question. Those convicts, why did you kill them? The father of a girl who was raped by those bastards came to ask me for the favor. Those bastards were animals worthy of getting killed. And I simply took care of animals that hurt other people, that was all. The Ranky hunter was listening without saying anything. It seemed quite likely that talking might work here. Kang Tae-sik went straight to persuading the other man. Although the matter had come down to this, I don't wish to hurt you. How about ignoring today's matter altogether? As long as we make this deal here, I promise I won't try anything to you and your group. Of course, he couldn't let a potential source of trouble fester. That was why Kang Tae-sik was thinking. There was a chance that a head-on fight would result in him getting badly injured, so he'd get out of here first, wait for an opportune moment, and dispose of all the witnesses one at the time. However, the Ranky hunter snorted derisively. You should have said those things before you tried your little tricks. You want us to ignore everything just because you failed your sneak attack? That man didn't say anything wrong there. Kang Tae-sik smirked in dumbfounded. In the end, you want to have a go, is that it? Well, in that case, he'd have to go all out, then. The light shimmering in Kang Tae-sik's eyes became colder. His sharp glare quickly swept across the Ranky hunter top to bottom. And his forehead creased up for a second. Where did he get his dagger from? Since before he had noticed it, the E-rank hunter was holding a dagger. Well, it shouldn't be too important, is it? It didn't matter where that weapon came from, indeed. What's important here, though, was the type of the weapon. Kang Tae-sik quickly concluded his assessment. The class that used daggers and utilized quick movements, his opponent was a super close type damage dealer. Most likely, his speciality was assassination. What a coincidence that their specialties happened to be the same. However, this guy only underwent his reawakening not too long ago. The difference in experience should be absolutely massive. He might not even be able to properly utilize the skills at his disposal. Let me teach you a thing or two as your senior. Kang Tae-sik extracted a knife from his hips and smirked derisively at the Ranky hunter. Can you do something like this? And then, Kang Tae-sik activated his stealth skill, thereby disappearing from the spot. That caused the Ranky hunter to get flustered and he hurriedly looked around his vicinity. Kang Tae-sik could see his naked panic and confusion quite clearly. But, that's so obvious. The stealth skill didn't only make one's body go transparent. The body, the sound, and even the smell. The skill that cloaked everything about the person activating it. That was the stealth skill in a nutshell. There were only a handful of assassin-type hunters who could use this skill in the entire world. Utterly unrelated to one's ranks, you just had to be a lucky few who unlocked this skill when going through the awakening process. Let's end this in one hit. Kang Tae-sik swiftly moved to the rear of the E-rank hunter. His back was wide open, unguarded. This is the end. He was expecting to engage in a bitter battle, but it turned out to be a rather simple fight in the end. If the opponent was getting ready to counter the stealth skill, then it'd not be this easy at all. As expected, the difference in experience decided the victor today. Die. Kang Tae-sik's knife aimed at the spot just below the E-rank hunter's ribs and powerfully stabbed forward. However, clang! Two daggers collided in the air and sparks flew off. With his stealth skill deactivated, one could now see Kang Tae-sik's wide-open eyes. What? But how? The E-rank hunter's dagger had accurately blocked off his own dagger. Unable to hide his shock, Kang Tae-sik raised his eyes and looked up at the E-rank hunter's face. And that hunter opened his mouth with a totally unimpressed face. Oh, so now you decide to pop up. Well, what did you say? Unable to understand the words of this Ranky hunter, Kang Tae-sik suddenly felt this inexplicable fear in his heart. Tearing. Emergency quest, kill all the enemies. There are life forms holding murderous intentions towards the player. Kill them all in order to secure your own safety. If you do not follow this instruction, a corresponding penalty will be given. The number of enemies left to kill, 1. The number of killed enemies, 0. Jin-Woo confirmed the emergency quest message and breathed a sigh of relief. It wasn't a waste of time. He was kind of worried that if Kang Tae-sik didn't take the initiative, Jin-Woo wouldn't receive the emergency quest notification. It was quite unlike how it was with Hwang Dong-suk and his gang back then. That was why he tested the system out, and it was as he expected. The moment Kang Tae-sik revealed his murderous intent, the message popped up. He wasn't just mindlessly chatting with the guy, or revealing his panic, or showing off openings for nothing until now. I really didn't know he could use stealth, though. Actually, when Kang Tae-sik did disappear in front of his eyes, Jin-Woo was slightly taken aback. Well, stealth was a pretty rare skill, after all. But, when he concentrated a bit harder, he easily and accurately sensed Kang Tae-sik's every movement. So much so that he could close his eyes and still find his target with no problem. This was the effect of his enhanced perception stat. He continued to invest on this stat just so he could tell whether he should fight or flight, but today, he learned of a new use for it. I got lucky. Thanks to that, Kang Tae-sik was getting shocked out of his mind as if he had seen the ghosts of his ancestors. But, how? And now, when Jin-Woo takes care of this murdering bastard, he'd be able to enjoy the quest's delicious rewards. If I'm going to fight anyway, then I might as well get everything I'm supposed to, no? It was his turn now. From now on, he'd start attacking for real. The two daggers locked in a deadly embrace continued to push against each other. It seemed that their strength was about the same. It was here when Jin-Woo's eyes gleamed dangerously. In that case, should I find an opening somewhere else? Jin-Woo's leg moved in an instant, and he stomped on Kang Tae-sik's foot.
We will finish this chapter here. Next chapter will be out soon, so stay tuned.